The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our October Washington Broker Roundtable on prospecting and setting more listing appointments hosted by our Washington broker, Grover Naslund. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone of a few tools we have here at Allison James. First, I want to remind everyone about our agent referral map. When you go to the referral section on your Allison James University dashboard, you will see a link for the agent referral map. This map is a great way not only to see all areas in which Allison James agents are located, but you can also use this map to refer any clients to any other Allison James agents. Keep in mind that this map is opt-in only. Therefore, if you do not see your name on this map and you would like to be included, please go ahead and email us here at support@ajicorporate.com. Speaking of referrals, keep in mind that if you're receiving a referral from an outside brokerage, you'll need to provide them with a W-9. You can find the Allison James W-9 and many other useful forms under the corporate forms section of Allison James University. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started with our Washington Broker Roundtable. Remember, if you have any questions during this presentation, go ahead and type them in the question box of your GoToWebinar control panel, and we will answer them all at the end. I'll now pass it on to Grover. Good morning, Grover.
Thanks, Rebecca. All right, good morning, everybody. Today is, as she had mentioned, prospecting and setting more listing appointments. First of all, I need a disclosure from the beginning. I am not the best prospector in the world. There's a lot of agents in our office that I could mention that actually do a much better job of getting new business. But having said that, just because I'm not the best doesn't mean I don't know how to do it. So the first thing I wanted to do is I want to talk about, and I know it's going to shock a lot of people, but I want to talk about the number one reason that people fail, that agents fail when they prospect for new business. And again, this might seem a bit crazy, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and I'm going to tell you the way it is. The number one reasons most agents fail with their prospecting is they don't do it. I know, crazy, right? But that's the fact. When you look at your day, from the time you get up till the time you're done for the day, whether it's a weekend or a weekday or an evening, you have so many hours in the day. How do you spend them? And we need to spend our time doing things that are productive. And if it's not productive, then is it really that important at that time? So that's really it. I mean, there's lots of ideas I can give you for prospecting, and there's lots of ways to generate new business, but if you actually don't do it, it isn't going to do you any good. All right, so let's start with, I think, the most familiar and really how most agents start, but we can't forget about it. And that's your sphere of influence in your past clients. Obviously, if you're a new agent, you're not going to have past clients. So we all know that when we first get into the business, we tell friends and family what we're doing. And we often get our first deals, whether listings or sales, from that. And then there's our past clients, which is probably our best and biggest source, or should be, of our future business and our prospecting. I read a statistic once that said most people can't remember the name of their agent after 6 months. So if you sell somebody a home, or again, it applies to buyers as well, if they don't remember your name when it's time for them to either buy another home, sell a home, or recommend somebody to a friend, if they don't remember you, the only person that's at fault is you. Now, I have a little thing I do, and obviously mine is unique, but with a name like Grover, I always give out Grover dolls to my clients with kids, in fact, sometimes even the adults. And so it just helps them remember me. And you'd think with a name like Grover, it would be easy to remember, but it's really not. I mean, I'm really no different than anyone else with my name. But again, I make my name more unforgettable. The parents might forget my name, but the kids never will. So staying in touch with your past clients. Now, does this mean calling them on the phone? Yes, it can. Does this mean sending them out emails on their anniversary date or after they've been in the house a month? Yes, it can. But let's not forget good old-fashioned days when we used to send out postcards. Not just emails. People can ignore emails. They can erase emails. They can block you. They can unsubscribe. But don't forget there's other ways of staying in touch and communicating with people. And that isn't just for past clients. That's for everybody. So there's a lot of ways to get your brand out there. And let's not forget the way that used to be done, because it still works. I know that I went to a listing appointment one time. This was many years ago now, but I had been out of touch with this client for a while, and it was time for him to sell. He called me. And I walked in the kitchen, sat down, and started chatting with him. And what do I see on his refrigerator? I see a refrigerator magnet calendar, a refrigerator magnet calendar, the kind we used to all give out back before the internet. And basically it had my business card attached to it. So, sometimes people like to send out sports schedules, items of value, something other than a business card that when you send it to somebody, they actually might hang on to it. Now, as far as different ways to generate business, new business, we all know about going through the expired listings and the canceled listings. And some of you do it, some of you don't. Again, this is back to if something you do, it might work. If you're not doing it, it's guaranteed not to work. And of course, for sale by owners. Now, if you do for sale by owners, for instance, if you look on Zillow and you see a for sale by owner, before you call them, and this goes with expired and cancels too, before you call anybody, look it up on the MLS. And in the case of expired, make sure it's not been relisted. Or if it's canceled, make sure it's not been relisted, or of course sold. And the same with Zillow. If you see a for sale by owner on Zillow, make sure it's not actually a listed property, because not all properties on Zillow or on the MLS show up on Zillow. And that's a mistake some people make. And then, of course, the other things that you can do for getting new business is, of course, farming. I want to talk a little bit about farming. Again, I want to jump on to one of the biggest mistakes people make with farming in a neighborhood. And of course, farming a neighborhood is where you pick a neighborhood, usually where people live, and you communicate with those people around you. Usually it's sending out postcards or maybe little newsletters or anything you can to stay in touch with people. Now, again, biggest mistake I've made that people make, and I see this all the different places I've lived in my 23 years in real estate. I judge by what I get in my mailbox. So I'll get an email, I'll get a letter or a postcard or something in the mail from a local agent, obviously soliciting business, and then I'll never see another one. Farming doesn't work if you want to farm your neighborhood unless you send something out all the time. Now, that doesn't mean every week, maybe every 2 weeks, maybe even once a month. But the only people that successfully farm a neighborhood are those people that are consistent. And so whatever you're doing, if you just do it once, it's not necessarily going to work. Oh, you could get lucky, but more than likely you're not. And every once in a while, in places I've lived, I'll get repeated letters over and over and over from the same person. And what does this do? Name recognition. So that when somebody wants to buy or sell a home, they remember the name of this guy. Oh, wait a minute. Didn't this guy just send me something? Now, here's where the items of value come in. So when you send somebody something, let's say again you're farming, and this would go with not just farming. This would go with staying in touch with past clients, or any time you have the ability to mail something out to somebody. Send them something that they might save. If it's just a little postcard, they might not save it. Now, one of the things I've done in the past is on the back of the postcard, I'll put a recipe. And I think the last one I did was blueberry muffins. And my thought is that maybe they'll save it. Maybe they'll save it because there's something of value. Now, it wouldn't have to be a recipe. Well, it certainly wouldn't have to be blueberry muffins. But anything of value that the people might hang on to. Maybe it's a beautiful photograph. Maybe it's a landscape photograph or something that's pretty that they might set up on a bookshelf or tack to something, or something that they just might keep. Now, be careful if you send something like that, because make sure you don't pull something off the internet that's copyrighted. I used to take all my own pictures when I send things with pictures on them. But try to think of something that somebody might want to keep. Another thing I use, and I'm not sure if it's as effective anymore, but I used to do this in the mail, and I used to do this with open houses. Instead of having business cards, I would make bookmarks. They would be long and just your normal bookmark you put when you're reading a book. And of course, on the front of it, I'd have all my contact information, company logo, everything that would be on a business card. And I often would put photographs, again, outdoor scenes, flowers, nature scenes. And I think on the back of those, I also would put a recipe. Nowadays, I don't know how many people read books as opposed to electronic media. I know I personally use a Kindle, but that doesn't mean handing somebody a bookmark couldn't be a good idea. Now, I have a template in Publisher for a bookmark. So if anybody wants one, let me know, and I will send you the template. As long as you have Publisher, you can add your name to it, and do the same thing. Customize it for yourself. But items of value. I used to give out at open houses, put out water bottles. Now these aren't as effective because people don't keep them very long. But I would buy mailing labels and put my logo, name, information on it, and I'd wrap it around the water bottle. And so when somebody took a water bottle, they would have my name on there. Now again, this doesn't last as much, but you get the idea. You want to give somebody something of value so that whenever you interact with them, you're not just trying to get their business. What you want to do is you want them to remember you, and you want them to remember your name. Now, if I jump around a little, you'll forgive me because my brain, kind of thinks of things as we go along. But let's switch to some other ways to generate business. And again, some of these cost money, some of them don't, and that's really what you're going to deal with in this business. It takes money to make money. Apartment buildings. So there's an apartment building, and people in that apartment building might want to stop renting. Because if it's renting, it's an apartment building, they don't own a home. And a lot of people don't realize they can afford to buy a home, or how easy it is, or how much you need down payment, or that you can actually maybe in some markets buy something that's easier or less expensive than renting. I personally just bought a house about 6 months ago. I bought at the time I did because rents were getting to the point that it was going to be cheaper per month to buy. My rent was getting higher than my mortgage payment was going to be. So apartments, some neighborhoods you just know, if you know neighborhoods, tend to have a lot of rentals in them. So that can be good as well. But apartments can be a really good source. And depending on what neighborhood you want to be in or what price range you want to be in, that's how you determine which apartment buildings you want to go. All you have to do is go to your local title company, whoever you do business with, tell them the name of the apartment building, or if you're farming a neighborhood, they'll give you a list of addresses for whatever geographical area you want to go in. And you'll be able to get these mailing lists, and essentially start mailing out to these people.
Are you?
Now, if you're going to get a mailing list from a title company, one of the things you can look at is that if you don't want to send out something to everybody, you can actually look at these lists and eliminate some of the names. Maybe the house was only purchased 6 months or a year ago. It may not be as valuable to send them one. But again, they may know somebody. They may have family that wants to move into the area, so it still might be worth it. So again, with farming, I can't emphasize this enough. If you're going to farm a neighborhood, you have to do it consistently, and you have to make sure that you just don't send a postcard out once and then that's it. All right, let's talk about probate and divorce. I don't know if any of you have ever considered either of those. You can there are actually companies that will give you lists of probate where there is real estate involved. Now, I took a course on this a while back to learn a little bit about how it all works. But essentially what it is when an estate goes into probate, if there is a house in the any real property in the estate, often it has to be sold. And somebody has to sell it. Now, there's ways to approach these. You need to be very careful because usually in a probate situation, somebody's just died. It's not always appropriate to call in the very beginning. And I don't want to go into it a lot. If anyone wants to call me and chat about this, I will. But there's also things you can offer these people other than selling the home that helps you get your foot in the door. Again, some item of value rather than just trying to ask for business. And divorce, the same thing. There are attorneys out there that specialize in divorce. Now, you need a certain temperament to deal with divorced couples. I know there's some of you out there that are listening that go, oh, that's the last thing I want to do is deal with divorced couples. Well, I've done it, and it can be trying. But there is business out there. There is business to be had by focusing on those sort of things. And then, of course, we have Facebook and social media as far as prospecting goes. If you're not doing it, social media is still one of the big ways to generate business. You post on, let's just use Facebook as an example. You can put posts on there. Again, it isn't always just, hey, come list with me. You know, you might want to give them information. Just anything you can do to get your name out there. And then you can boost these posts by spending money. And the advantage here is you can actually pick geographical areas. You can pick zip codes so that you're not posting and spending money on Facebook in an area where you don't want business. So that's important. Now, then there's, of course, is paid leads. Everyone knows what we're talking about here. You pay a company like Zillow, for instance. You pay Zillow, and they give you a certain amount of leads, and usually it's within a zip code as well. Now, I know Zillow can be expensive. Some people are successful with it, some people aren't. And there's a lot of companies out there that you can pay money to. Zillow, and Truly, of course, is, I think, now part of that family. Realtor.com. There's lots of them out there. There's lots of companies. Just Google it, paid real estate leads. And again, the key here is if the leads come in, it's important for you to follow up. It's another mistake people make. They'll get a lead, and they won't follow up, or they'll make the initial call, but they won't continue following up. It doesn't mean you have to call them every 5 minutes, but if you're too afraid to pick up the phone or shy and aren't willing to make those calls, you know, you're not going to get anything from them. I know personally when I've made an inquiry about somebody and they call me back and they're persistent in calling me back, as a businessman, I appreciate that. And I think most people do too. Now, you're going to find out if they don't want to talk to you, they'll tell you. Or if they're not really interested, they're going to tell you. So, but don't forget paid leads. That's another way to get it. Now, we all want to make money, or we all want to generate business with, you know, keeping our income down as low as possible. but it's important that you get in front of these people. Another thing I heard as a statistic is that most people end up working with the first agent they talk to. So even though you've got competition out there, you don't always have competition. I know that whenever I talk with somebody for the first time, if it's a listing, I don't avoid the subject of competition. I ask them, are you talking to other companies or other agents? Are you going to talk to anyone else? I want to know if there's an objection out there because I want to get it out of the way right away. And don't shy away from objections. Don't try to avoid them, because if there is an objection, then you're not going to know about it unless either they bring it up or you bring it up. Open houses. The market we just went through was so brisk, people didn't really want do open houses, or they didn't have to, or they didn't want to deal with buyers because things were so busy. It's hard to find houses for buyers. But again, with all the technology and social media, good old-fashioned open houses are still a good way to meet new clients. And sometimes it's a neighbor who's thinking of selling, and they just want to see what this particular house might be. So if you have a listing and you want to do it, I would recommend doing open houses. If you don't have a listing and want to do open houses, send an email out to our group of agents. Say, hey, anybody looking for someone to do an open house this weekend? And tell them you'd be glad to do it. Another way that a broker I used to work for years ago, she took me in her office one day and asked me if I would like maybe just one extra deal per year without doing anything. And I, of course, said yes. She suggested that I wear a realtor pin or something that says I'm a real estate agent. A hat, a shirt with a logo on it, anything. And I started doing that, and sure enough, I'd be standing in line at a grocery store or somewhere, and someone would just strike up a conversation with me. Oh, you're in real estate. I'd say, yes, I do. Or even without that, and without being obnoxious and without being, like a used car salesman or pushing Amway, don't be afraid to let people know what you do. I'll go into a Starbucks at 5 o'clock on an afternoon, and they'll say, oh, are you done for the day? They might say that. And I'd say, no, I'm in real estate. I'm never done. I'm always working. And so often I have struck up conversations with people just like that. Just because they have questions, and now they know what you do, and you're willing to answer questions for them. Let's see, what else do I have on here? And if when you do get that listing appointment, let's talk about that for a minute. One of the first things that you want to make sure to do is develop some rapport. Your first goal in any phone conversation is to get an appointment, to get in front of that client in their home. So you want to limit the amount of information and the amount of time you spend on the phone, other than, again, building rapport, getting information that you might need. But your goal is to get in front of them. So save something for that. And make sure that when you do meet them, and when you're on the phone, make sure, and this is my biggest fault, make sure you don't talk too much. You should be asking them questions. What is your goal? Why are you moving? Where are you moving to? What are your expectations? What are you looking for in an agent? What is your timeline? What if you can't get the price you want? What are you going to do? Are you going to stay? You should be asking more questions and get them talking. And that's important. And again, that's my weakness. I tend to rattle on, as those that know me can attest. And remember, we don't really sell houses. This isn't a sales business. It's a service industry. The only time you're doing the main selling that we do is when we sell ourselves. And that's really what we're doing at a listing appointment. And keep in mind that of all the objections you're going to get, one of them is going to be price. Why should I pay you this when I can get something cheaper somewhere else? And the other is the company. Now, don't underestimate the value of our brand, or our name, and our logo. Allison James Estates and Homes is a great name. It's a great company. It's a great brand. It looks good on a yard sign in front of their house. So, I mean, that's one thing I've used before is just, can you imagine what this logo would look like on a sign in front of your house? It's very elegant and it really stands out. So don't be afraid to push the company, because someone might say to you, what about the big companies like Coldwell Banker? You know, they have nothing on us. Once in a while, you'll reach and find a neighborhood where it's kind of hard to get in there unless you're with one of the big boys. But most of the time, that's not an issue, because they're not hiring Coldwell Banker. They're hiring you. And just remember that. And then just be honest with them. To me, that's very important, because these people are trusting the sale of the most important asset they have to you. And you want to be honest. You want to make sure they understand the dangers of overpricing a listing, as an example, and know what their expectations are. So those are kind of the high points for prospecting. I know we just touched on just a few of them, and we didn't spend a lot of time on any one of them. But and there's other ways. There's still other ways. There's other things that you can do. But just in the interest of brevity, as I rattle on, I think that's it for now. So if you have any questions, text or type them in. And as always, do not hesitate to call me anytime if you have any questions on this or anything else. I'd be glad to help, and that includes evenings and weekends. So Rebecca, that's all I have.
Thank you, Grover, and thank you so much for joining us, everyone, on Washington Broker Roundtable. Thank you again, Grover, for all of your wonderful insight, as always, and for putting together such a great topic and presentation. We'll see you all next month for another Washington Broker Roundtable. And thank you all for joining today, and I hope you all have a wonderful week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
I always forget how to end it. Do I just exit? Yeah. Do I just exit the thing? I always forget how to end it.